Don't get trapped by emotional pain. It's not necessary. There are things that we can do. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all about self-government, which is a type of mental processing and personal training that affects our relationships, our parenting, and just our overall success in life. In this video, we're talking about how to not be trapped by emotional pain. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about emotional pain, what that means and you might be experiencing. I'm also going to share a story related to overcoming emotional pain and about a friend of mine who got trapped by emotional pain and then got out of it. I'm going to get a little personal with you, I will say that. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about self-government, the principles of self-government, and how they can help you if you're experiencing a feeling of being trapped or if you don't want to get trapped by emotional pain. Emotional pain is actually some of the worst pain that a person can experience. It can oftentimes feel worse than physical pain. There are many people who would rather get a root canal than experience a feeling of self-loathing, self-disappointment, or depression. They would rather have a medical procedure. That's how difficult emotional pain can feel to some people. Now, usually emotional pain or mental pain can best be described as a feeling of disappointment in self or devaluing of yourself. This type of pain is hard because it attacks your very identity. So recognizing who you are to other people around you and recognizing who you are to your spiritual maker can make a big difference. I'd like to tell you a story about my friend Chad. That's not really his name, but we're going to use that name for now. So Chad was raised by pretty, normal parents. And there ended up being some family drama that happened in his upbringing. There were situations where the family didn't get along and they had some struggles. And this had an effect on Chad. So Chad started wondering if that type of life with family and following God like his parents did and all that kind of stuff was actually really worth it or not. He started questioning his own value as a person if he kept following after the things that his family was doing. So time went by, he got into drugs, he ended up with some legal problems. He ended up not accomplishing a lot of the things that many people experience in their 20s. Like, going to school, starting a career. He just was drifting. Oh, he got down. He really started experiencing a lot of depression, emotional pain. He got into drugs even more and just started spiraling out of control. And he ended up with health problems and incarceration and damaged relationship after damaged relationship. Because that happens once you start thinking you're not turning out right, you're not getting the experiences that you should, you have ruined yourself or whatever it is. The guilt, the shame, the confusion, the hate of light, which was where he was at. You start just thinking that you're destined for darkness. And that's where he headed. And it was really a hard circumstance. I know that I'm not alone in knowing somebody who's experienced this. I know that there are probably many people watching this video who have had to help loved ones through difficult circumstances like this. But it's important to recognize that inside, even though they may seem so proud, so, arrogant even at times in the things that they think are true, they are questioning inside whether they're really a good version of themselves. They're still trying to figure that out. There's a lot of people who try to figure that out until the day they die. It's just part of the human condition, and it can create a ton of pain if a person never gets close to those answers. So what did Chad do? Chad decided that he had seen a hand in his life that was undeniably helpful. He recognized that he almost died multiple times, but somehow there had been kind of a miraculous situation that kept him alive. It was probably, honestly, the prayers of his mother keeping him alive. And he didn't recognize it at first, but then finally he saw, wait a minute, why am I still alive? Is there still a reason for me here? I'm going to get emotional because I love Chad. He's a dear friend, and he's been so open about his journey with me and what he's experienced. And he realized at that time that he owed his life to a greater power than just himself. And it wasn't just chance or fate, it was God. And so Chad decided to change it all. He had all kinds of addictions and things, and he just stopped. He said, Nicholeen, I tried to stop so many times, different addictions, and it never worked. But when I finally said, no, I'm a different version of me now. I am not that person. I am giving myself to God, and that doesn't match. And that's not me. I'm letting it go. I'm actually choosing to be done. He changed. It's amazing what happened with him. I could go into great detail about his spiritual journey. That's not what this video is about, but it was powerful. And still to this day, every time I talk to him, he says, I'm not sure I'm doing enough. And I will look at him and I will say, Chad, you are a different person. And you are clearly a motivated person, but don't let that motivation trap you, because he has the tendency to be hard on himself because he's disappointed in what he did. And he spent all those years being negative and being disappointed. And so I tell him, be optimistic, Chad. See the good that you're doing. Acknowledge it. I know it's not good enough for you yet, but it is good. And every step toward light and truth is valued by your Maker. So value it too. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge goodness, even if you see it in yourself. And then just keep trying. Don't tear yourself up. And so even though he wants to be good, now he's not sure if he's good enough. That's the sign of a person who really easily falls into the traps of emotional pain. So what's one thing that you can do not to be trapped by emotional pain? You can acknowledge when you've done something good. You can acknowledge when you tried, even if it wasn't perfect yet. You've got to see all of the little baby steps. Those little baby steps are powerful. So maybe you have a habit of pessimism. Replace it. The only way to create a new habit is to let it go and replace it. So what do you replace it with? Easy. Optimism. Okay, I know it's not so easy, especially if you have a habit of pessimism, but that is the answer. When you look for the good, then suddenly you don't have any space for the bad. Good and bad cannot occupy the same mental space at the same time. You can literally push out the bad with thoughts of the good. That's what Chad did. He decided to give his allegiance to good and not to bad anymore, and he became an entirely different version of himself. He became free mostly. He decided to forgive himself for all the bad things in the past, but then he had to decide that he wouldn't allow himself to be trapped by negative thoughts about how he wasn't perfect enough yet. So he's a bit of a perfectionist. Perfectionism can be a trap. If you're a perfectionistic person, you oftentimes don't like when things don't go your way. You don't like no answers. So learning how to accept the no answers of life can be very helpful. To accept a no answer, you look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body, you say okay or you ask to disagree appropriately, and then you drop the subject. Any no answer, someone cuts you off in traffic, look at it, stay calm, say, okay, that is what it is, and then don't think about it anymore. Just listen to the song on the radio and move on. That is the healthy way to handle disappointment. And when you disappoint yourself, you're going to have to teach yourself how to drop the subject, how to stay calm, how to move on. Tell yourself to do it. Go through it mentally, visually in your head, how you know you can do that for yourself, so that you can prepare, role play for those future times where you will disappoint yourself, because you will. You're human. It's part of life. So if you can plan for disappointments, if you can look for the good, if you can train yourself to acknowledge what you have done, you could successfully keep yourself away from emotional pain and those traps that come with it. Oftentimes when you're in emotional pain, one of the side effects is damaged relationships with other people as well. So you definitely don't want to have that. One thing that you can do is maintain good, solid relationships with other people by reaching out to others on a regular basis and having productive conversations. If you have a loved one that you know experiences emotional pain, reach out to them on a regular basis and talk about something besides the pain. And if you're the one who gets trapped by emotional pain, then come up with a hobby or something else you can do. Talk about the sunset that you saw. Talk about a movie that you saw. Talk about something you made for dinner. Talk about something else. You know all those annoying posts that people do on social media where they take a picture of their dinner plate or something? You know what they're doing? They're just being grateful. Okay, they might be showing off about their dinner. That could be one thing. But for most of the people that do that, they're just grateful for the moment. That keeps them away from those emotional pain traps, because life isn't perfect. It won't be. Keep that in mind as you are trying to keep yourself safe from emotional traps. Good relationships make all the difference. Now, what if your relationships are not quite what they should be? Well, I can help you with that too. There is a video that I highly recommend that you watch next. The video is called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. We do trap ourselves. You've recognized that, or you wouldn't be here on this video. But there's more that I can do to help you stay away from some of those destructive traps. Sometimes we need to adopt a new mindset. Let me help you. Go to that video now. I'll see you there.